Hello, I'm Dave Knoll and welcome to A Wheel Thing TV. In this week's episode we're checking out the Mitsubishi Triton GLS with the manual transmission. Recently we tested the Exceed version of the new Triton that came with a few extra bits and pieces, such as a hard cover at the rear and the nudge bar and a few other little bits and pieces. This is the GLS, the next step down. As you can see, very much obviously the same basic design with all that chrome at the front nowadays that most of the Japanese car makers are coming out with. It's still a, well, it's actually grown on me, I have to say, the overall design of the car, but I have to admit to a bit of a sweet spot in regards to the Triton. It's also a very big car, as you can see, well over 5 metres in length, about $1.78 in height, and close to the same in total width as well. So it's a fairly big beast, powered by that 2.4 litre diesel with plenty of grunt underneath the bonnet. And of course, in this case, being a little bit different, we've got a 6-speed manual transmission to play with alongside the electronic transfer situation that Mitsubishi have included. It's pretty simple. We're in 2-wheel high range. You've got 4-wheel high range, 4-wheel low range, and low range by the looks of it as well, all operated by putting the car into neutral, pressing that down and twiddling the dials. Up onto the dash, we've got our familiar information screen plus the slightly odd balance of some nice little push buttons here, and then a bit of a sharp edge up and down for your cruise control in there. As we go to our ignition screen, as you can see, we've got a monochrome display there, but up the top also what mode that your all-wheel drive system is going to be in. And flick through using that button just in there. So if we have a look, we're on a few bits and pieces, 437 k's covered at the moment. As you can see, we've still got half a tank of fuel left. Mitsubishi quotes about 7.6 litres per 100 k's as a combined cycle, so on a highway you could very easily get from Sydney to Melbourne and still have a little bit in the tank left over. Still goes through with some other information. There we go, it's estimating around 370 k's left in the tank at an average of 7.4 litres per 100 kilometres. Pretty much right on the money according to Mitsubishi's own figures. Car's in neutral at the moment and we're in 2-wheel high range as indicated by the little graphic on the screen here. We're going to go into 4-wheel high range, and as you can see, flashes up in there. It does take a minute or two, or a little bit of time, and that will eventually lock in. And you've got your choice of high, low range, I guess is the easiest way to call it. It says HLC. And then push down and lock, and that will then eventually lock the whole system into a absolute mud crawler of a car. 6.1 inch touchscreen on here with digital tuner, which is not quite as sensitive as a couple of other brands tested recently. It does tend to drop out in a few spots, which is just a little bit annoying. But on the other side of the screen you do get information about what you're listening to, of course a station list, and all those kind of things that digital tuners now have. Menu up the top, fairly basic, and obviously you can stream your Bluetooth audio, connect your phone as well, and into other connection settings and just some of the basic screen settings and car settings as well. Around town, the Triton with a 6-speed manual, look, it's actually quite easy to tootle around at around 50 or 60 k's and just leave the car in fourth. It doesn't really stress the car all that much, and it's idling at around 1500 RPM, just below the turbo cut in. It's still plenty of torque anyway, and maximum torque on this at well over 430 newton meters of torque comes in at around 2500 RPM, but there's obviously heaps before that particular figure, and enough to keep the car tootling along quite nicely. When you're out on the highway, it's a gear that's about 110, 120 k's an hour, is around 2000 RPM, so again, really not stressing the car, the gearbox, or even better, the driver. Mitsubishi's GLS Triton has some fairly tidy looking alloy wheels and some pretty decent sized rubber, as you can see. They're 245 65 17s, supplied by Toyo. On normal driving surfaces like tarmac and such like, the car is actually a little bit jiggly. The tight suspension, you've got coil springs at the front, but old style leaf springs at the back. Does make it just a little bit taut, but still a fairly comfortable ride as long as you're not flogging it really hard over some very uneven surfaces. Under the bonnet, we've got a 2.4 litre diesel pumping out a massive 430 Newton metres at just 2,500 RPM. If you rev up another 1,000, you'll get 133 kilowatts. As you can see, the headlights only coming off, parkers and low beam. You don't get auto on at all. I think that's a bit of a miscalculation, and certainly in a safety factor, not really the done thing. It's always nice to have a big, boofy, simple car to drive, and the Mitsubishi Triton fits that just perfectly. I make the analogy, it's a little bit like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Big, boofy, simple, but you can't help but love it. From around $45,000 for this particular model, fitted with tub liner, tonneau cover, etc., it's a pretty good buy, and considering that you can get close to 1,000 Ks out of a full tank of diesel, it's got to be a consideration. For A World Thing TV, I'm Dave Canole.